Hey there, Mario. Just wanted to get you some feedback here that I promised you I'd get you. I'm going to go ahead and take a look at the model here and see what we can do to the skull to kind of push this into a little bit more shape. Um, I think the desired shape that you're looking for. So I just loaded in an image into Spotlight, and we'll go ahead and take a look. All right, so I'm just going to kind of check out the asset from a couple different directions. Some things that I'm noticing here on the asset we looked at the other day. We have a little bit of a flatter forehead, so we should be seeing this come out a little bit more. Right, and then if you were to line up where that is, and then the cheekbones, right, temporal region to the cheekbone, we should have an offset, so we need to bring that out there. So we'll do a little bit of work there. Hopefully it turns out the way we want it to, but only time will tell. Get rid of that application there. Oh my goodness, it's still there. There we go. There we go. So a lot of movement with just the move brush. I think that's going to be a good place to start. Right, kind of getting into the asset. Okay, so it looks like you kind of have this head pushed down a little bit instead of looking straight forward. That's going to be a little bit of an issue because you're not looking at everything just straight on. So we're going to, again, just see what we can get. All right, so just kind of going through and situating a couple things. I'm just using the move brush and trying to pull out some of that cheek. Not sure how much geometry is in this. If you're working with Dynamesh, let me go ahead and take a look at that. Not too bad. Let me look at the topology. Yeah, not too bad. I'm actually, to go back and start achieving a little bit more base structure, I'm gonna lighten this up a little bit. That's interesting. Looks like our smooth is not doing anything. I don't know if you got anything else locked in or whatever. I don't think you're want any layers. Interesting. I might have to try and open this up again. Doesn't seem to be wanting to smooth. Let me go to something else here, just to see. Alright, well, it looks like my smooth tool has broken. So I'm not seeing anything smoothing. Okay, I'm just going to go ahead and save it and reopen it. Let's go ahead and shut this down. I'll start it up. Sorry about that. That's going to take a little bit of time there. But it does happen. Alright, let's see if smoothing does anything now. There we go. Okay, so something was just broken. I do want to bring that image back in. It's loading up the spotlight there. Okay. You know, silly. I should have seen that. It's actually a sample. Spotlight projection. Oh, I made it. That was a beginner mistake there. Should have seen that one. Alright, so just gonna grab my move brush again. You can see now we started to build up that temple region. That's all I'm going to shoot for first is just the core shapes. Alright, I'm going to come down in here, look at the asset from underneath. I think we're going to start pulling a little bit of that jaw. Right, we got the masseter there, mass eater in the back, right? You see how we're starting to create that plane change. And now we're going to give this chin a little bit more. So what is pretty good is that some of this stuff is already here, right? We're just kind of finessing it. I'm going to bring that cheek forward a little bit. Let's go back into the... just trying to see, make sure we have the mass where we need it. Go ahead and make that a little smaller. Set that. Because I think right here, looking at where the cheek is, and how far that should be with the nose, I think we're pulled back pretty far. So we're going to bring that all forward. Again, just looking at things. Okay. Well, we're still a little boxy and such in the forehead, but right now you can see the changes made. Okay, so you built up, okay, establishing that, and then This is where I came in. Not yet, right in here. Okay, so just smoothing, building up that cheek, bringing the temples in. Okay, so just refining a little bit more. And there's still some things that need to be worked out. We're going to start looking at those. So we need more geometry. We're at that point. So we're going to take this up. Since we're still figuring things out, Dynamesh, I'll bring it kind of back where you were on that. There we go. That should give us enough to get into some things. Okay, so cartoony or not, we're going to have, you know, bridge of the nose. There's going to be certain things that we need to see on the asset. Now I'm just going to kind of build up some masses. And turn off lazy mouse. Kind of pushing and pulling. Looks like we're very beakish. If you look here, all right, we got that really small wedge coming out for the mouth. We're going to try and increase some of that. See, starting to level this out, right? So, you know, the thing you look at, if we're going to go into, let me bring up, right, whether or not this is, you know, stylized or whatever, you'll notice that there's very flat through the front here. You can see here this is a more rudimentary, basic type looking. This one here, same thing. You can see all the way down to the side of the face here. That's kind of very flat. And then here, this one's, you can see that coming off the nose and then kind of flattening out and then changing direction as we hit that cheekbone. So that's kind of the stuff we're looking for. So when we go around, up underneath the character, we don't want it to feel like there is a beak happening or something protruding too much. And also, I'm going to look at it from different angles like this, and if I start to feel, see that right over here, that begins to not feel right. So all these things will slowly hurt the asset. And of course, your brush size, super important. If we were to measure, I think we might be able to, maybe. We'll keep playing with it and we'll see. See if it starts feeling weird from other directions. Okay. So again, it's not perfect, but you can see some of those structural elements coming back into play. And since I'm doing this, try and get that mandible in there a little bit of mass in there. It's lightly building up now. Into the cheek. And all this is skull stuff, so I'm not trying to move into anything until we get this situated. You see that drop back, right? We don't want that. Come on, BMV. That'll work for me there. Again, want to look at it from all these interesting angles. Angles are really going to help you out. Once you get this stuff situated, now we can start looking at giving it a little bit more style. I'm not sure if you're going for an angrier look or anything like that, but that's something that we need to think about, because right now I haven't really moved the eyes, but they're kind of pulling off that kind of angry look. Those brows pulling down, so we can just take a look at that. Oop. Now we can pull down, push up. Depends on really what kind of look you're going with. smoothing out a little bit more. Look at it from different angles. Looks like we lost a little bit of our chin. Right? And as you go through this process, you have to keep an eye on the things that you've established and make sure that you haven't gotten rid of them. It's feeling a little boxy, little manly there. I don't want to move brush fails you, or you just feel like you're not getting what you need. Smooth into that pretty heavily. Okay. You can see what we're starting to get. Right, we're starting to get similar shapes as we're seeing here. And I know we're not shooting for that. That's not 100% what we're going for, but you gotta have that visual reference. I'm just kind of looking. I'm looking at the jaw here, making sure that the plane changes are right. Feels very aggressive, and if you look at the shading here, there's a lot more fatty mass on the corner of the mouth. This is coming out a little chiseled. Just going to kind of build that up. Kind of take out that. Okay. So now that something like this is there, if you wanted a little bit more pointy, once you get the masses, you're kind of bouncing between adjusting mass and adjusting skull structure. So now we can start playing around with the shape of the head. Do we want more rounded? Do we want a little more boxy? Do we want the chin a little bit lower? We can start globally moving. Even here, the high point for the cheek should be back a little bit, so we're going to adjust some of that. Right, and as I catch things as I move around, I am going to, try and make alterations. I don't want to bounce around too much, but I always want to be moving in the right direction, catching structural elements. See, really kind of swept in. Gonna save on me. So I'll just bring this down a little bit. Cranium, you want that to be nice and rounded. You can see that starting to stick out there on the back. Have to make sure we're not, see, it's starting to get boxy. I'm going to go through and smooth that out. Sometimes it's not going to work. See how boxy that is? All right. Sometimes you got to come in here and pull it out here. Push this in a little bit and then pull out here. Kind of round that out the way it needs to be. And once you get the shape you want, you look at it and go, okay, are we as high as we are deep? There's been a lot of times I've gotten into skull work here and I go the wrong direction with it, and then a little bit more finagling and you end up in the right direction. Okay. So once you get to, again here, and we can go back and we can look, the evolution. You can see that we are starting to progress the skull. Let me go ahead and pull this stuff out here, I think. A little bit. Don't want to go too much. Still need that temporal region there. See, we got a little bit of an indent there. That zygomatic should come all the way back to where the ear would be. Right? If you go, oh my goodness, that's way too much. Well, now you can go in here and move the structure back. Sometimes it's nice just to have the shape there that you need, and then you can push and pull that shape. Right, so if I'm going to go in, I used to say this in class all the time, if I'm going to go in and put in lips on a character, sometimes I just need lips there that might be close to what I'm looking for, and then I just kind of work with those. You know what I mean? Now I start shaping them and doing stuff like that. Okay, so I'm just kind of looking, seeing what's what. And again, we saw this aggressive look. You'd have to decide if that's what you want. But now as you start to pull eyes and start pulling that shape, you've got something, that we can, more that you can work with. You want to adjust the nose. There's a little nose there. Now when you get the lips, I mean, honestly, as long as you've got a nice rounded structure there, starting to add the lips. And you might take something like the Damien Standard. And first thing we're going to do is kind of cut those in. Oop. And then let's go and pull out. Right? Because they were built on a more accurate surface, now we can start working with them. Now there is, a triangle. She's got a very narrow triangle because she's got that tiny nose, so you want to keep the corners of the mouth in line with that nose. Right? So you can start working with that kind of stuff. And those, right now they're just placeholder lips. So we can say, all right, let's put a point here, draw a straight line down. We should be getting the corner of the mouth. So we can work with them, pull them out a little bit. You don't want to just pull straight out, though. If we pull straight out, we break that line. We want to always make sure that the lips are still fitting the shape. So we might go out and back a little bit. All right. And now we have something there that we can start to position. We can break the chin from. All right, we could start adjusting the shape underneath the nostrils, the nose. Let's go ahead and cut that in. Just trying to get a better read and transitions, right? This will tell us that, oh my goodness, that's not right. Let's go ahead and switch back to move and push it back. Oh, my targeting is off here. Again, I keep getting confused that it's being kind of modeled at a slight down. So that kind of throws me. Just looking at the masses, we got some nice round mass in there. And looks like the chin can come down a little bit, along with everything else. And I haven't updated any Dynamesh or anything yet, so I'm going to go ahead and update that. You'll see we lose a little bit. A little bit of smoothing. You can see we start adding those in, and again, now that that shape's there, well, if we need to move that up, it looks like the distance here, if we're going off of that, which we're not really, you know, we might need to move that up a little bit. Right, might need to move the nose down. Like, there's all kinds of things we can now do that those shapes are there. And I'm not going to invest too much, right? You see, I just kind of smoothed over them. You know, just because I wanted to get a little bit more in there. Feels like we're getting a little bit puffy here in the corners of the mouth. But, you know, I'm going to spend time moving them around and really situating them where I want them or need them. Not really solidifying them right out of the gate. Too big, too big. And you start finessing shapes that you want to see. Got that nice angled nose. And you'll notice that what are we doing now? Well, we're working on smaller regions. Right? We went from skull, really kind of working that, to getting into smaller areas. So that whole micro to macro thing. And once you get, hey, that's the shape I want, then I can go in and say, okay, it's time to solidify the lines, right? But definitely not until you've really hammered everything in. If you're staring at a big giant project with all this stuff that needs to be updated and worked on, it's just it's so overwhelming, you know. Right, you can see from the sides, feeling a little bit off. Need to pull that back a little bit right here. I'm going to adjust my brush size. Just nudge it, finesse it. and then you go in and you do another pass. Pass 2 will be where you say, okay, let me up my geometry. Now let's go in and put in more shapes and everything. Okay, so I think it's starting to go in the right direction. There still might be a little bit of skull stuff, but once you get the hair blocked out, you'll be able to tell. Right? And again, it's, I'm sourcing this for general things, right? Kind of what I want to see, the shapes I want to see. And then I'm just kind of going through and working it, because this is someone else's art. I don't want to follow this 100%, but I want, if I like that look, I want to make something that feels like that. And this has a lot more mass and volume, which this will start to get as we continue moving into those structures. Looks like we can soften up a lot of that bone structure to kind of, again, this is feeling a little too chiseled. So we come in here and we just kind of, once we got a structure there, we can kind of soften up everything and go more with that baby, almost like doll face, kind of keep working all that. And then when the eyes, same thing, you get that ocular cavity looking right. I think the forehead's working a little better. It's a little boxy, feeling a little strange up here. But I don't think we're going to be able to answer that kind of stuff until the eyes are in and solidified, or at least there, then we can start working that shape to fit into everything else. Okay, so hopefully that helps you out, give you some direction to go into. If you have any questions on what I went through, please let me know. And if you want to set up another time, another session, I'd love to do that as well. And we can kind of keep pushing your asset in the right direction. All right, but thanks again for giving me the opportunity to do a sculpt over with it. And again, let's just take a look. Okay, so you built in your shapes. And then really, I just kind of move stuff around, situating skull, right? Skull structures and stuff first. And I slowly move into the nose and some of these other things. And once we get kind of happy where we're at, it's all right, let's start getting some of that. And then we start finessing. Okay? So again, thank you for sharing, and let me know if you need anything else.